Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Hello, you're listening to the podcast. So there I was. This is episode 170. Can you believe it, Fig? 170?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy talk.
It is crazy. Look, this one is Twisted Balls and Flaming Intakes. One of the few times we've gotten a title right out of the gate, man. I mean, he hit the ground running.
You know, at some point in there, somebody said something about losing control, and I don't think we ever had control of that interview.
No, we kind of rolled the grenade under the tent flap with the pin pulled, and these guys went at it. Who are these guys, you might ask? Well, we have this week Otto from episode 3, Disco from episode 104, Vapor from episode 62, and Pisser from episode 160. And then on top of that, we were joined by Strut, and not this week. Spiko couldn't get in until the second half of the show, so you'll hear Spiko next week. But we are breaking this show into two because we had 2 hours and 20 minutes with these guys. So
couldn't shut them off. We couldn't shut them down. And they're also known as the Young Guns.
Yeah. Which Pisser brought up, which was the whole idea and the impetus behind this show back from episode 160. So really good stuff. Real quick announcement. July giveaway winners were Jason, Todd, Captain, and Kevin. And the books are on the way. Takeoffs and Landings by Alger Pete Peterson. So thank you to Dusty Peterson for donating those books so we could send those out to the people who were kind enough to share the show.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing the show. And congratulations.
Thank you also to the other people whose mental judgment comes into question on a regular basis, and they crack their wallets and send us money. We couldn't keep doing this without your input and help and support, financial support. So thank you, and God bless you all for doing that, because we're having a ball bringing these shows to you, but we couldn't have kept it going on our own.
Very humbling. Thank you.
So, wow, some crazy stories this week. Starting off with Twisted Balls, man. Out in the PI.
Yes.
Not what you're thinking, folks. Get your mind out of the gutter.
That's right. It's a play on words, so to speak.
Well, when you have a refueling probe on the end of it, there's a ball that has to be pushed in order for the fuel to flow past. It's basically a one-way ball valve.
Yeah.
And the ball
got twisted.
And when the fuel system started to repressurize, it caused flaming intakes. So,
yeah. What was it? The tanker guy said, "You already got your gas. Why are you back?" Great story.
Some more? May I have some more, please, sir?
Great story.
Yeah.
It was nonstop.
No, it was nonstop. Then there's the wildebeest in a bar fight.
Yeah.
Let's just say what? She deadlifted lieutenants for fun? I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's the legend of the wildebeest, and then there really was a wildebeest, and that's a great story.
Turned out there was. And then I think Strut referred to this as the time to shit yourself, or how long's the time to shit yourself? Talking about dropping napalm.
Yes. Right in the heart of the weapons engagement zone.
They had to get down there, get dirty, and be in the anti-aircraft zone for much longer than they wanted to be. And their experience from Asia months prior led them to believe that this was not going to end well. So they wound up doing pretty good. But thinking of their months prior in Asia, these guys spent a year and a half to almost 2 years together in the same group of people for the most part. Very limited turnover, which is just unheard of. So that created a bond among these guys from starting in Westpac and going to war together. And you could tell that they have a special bond that they let us peek at a little bit this week and next.
Very unique.
So that was a
very
privilege.
Very unique, very special. I felt very honored to be let into that little group for a couple hours.
Right. Indeed. And we saw some of the text traffic afterwards. They're savage. These guys are
brutal. Brutally savage.
And they had their Deadbeat Club, which was also talked about this week. may have involved some I don't know, some scope bottles and
allegedly.
Allegedly involved scope bottles. And well, scope has sometimes got alcohol in it, so you can keep your breath fresh. That's the point,
exactly. Right? Sure.
We aren't doing it justice, man. I think we should get out of the way and let the young guns tell it.
Yeah, let's let the young guns tell it.
About crossing
Don't sit on the ejection seat handle.
At night, in the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fun.
There I was in the Philippines with Strut, Tom Rutledge, called Kingpin Extraordinaire. And we are going to go do a missile shoot. And that doesn't happen very often. So we're actually going to get to load up, shoot Sidewinder missiles. So we launch off and we head out. We're going to go tank and then, pre-mission tank. And then they're going to drop some flares. We're going to shoot some flares. And it's totally cool because, how often we get to shoot Sidewinders. AIM-9, probably Limas, I guess. Anyway, so we get airborne. We get out there. We hit the tanker, Strut, in and out. And then I plug. And as I pull out, on the end of our refueling probe, it's kind of like a ball. And when you plug in, it kind of depresses the ball, and then the fuel flows down. Well, as I pull out, somehow the ball gets twisted, and so it doesn't seat back in. And I'm looking at
torsional twisting,
and I'm going, yeah. And so I go to put the probe back in, and so what happens is when you put the probe out on a Harrier, your fuel system depressurizes so that you don't fuel the tanker can fuel you. So anyway, so when it's sitting out there, I'm depressurized. Well, as I start to lower it, the pressurization system kicks in, and fuel starts pumping out the end of the fucking probe.
Premature ejaculation there?
Yeah, it starts going down the intake. And so Strut and I are doing the freaking first afterburner test on a freaking Harrier. You got shit going out the back. And he goes, "Fuck, Vapor, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Hey, dude, this sounds weird. My ball isn't reset." And he's like, "Well, you got a problem?" I go, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, try to bang it back and forth." I think I said, "Well, when I put it in, it bangs." I said, "It's dumping fuel down the intake." He goes, "Oh, that's what that flame is." And so he's like, "Shit, maybe let's get the tanker back here." So he calls back to the tanker who's already taken off. And he gets them to come back. And of course they're suspicious. They're like, "Hey, you took your fuel. What do you want?" These are a bunch of Air Force, freaking boy. They want to get back to freaking Clark and start playing with little freaking brown boys.
Oh, Gucci boys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Air Force boys. Anyway, so Strut gets them to come back. Strut, I don't know what you told him. He made up some shit. Gets them to come back and put the basket back out. And he's like, "All right." And luckily I think it was it's a KC-10, right? Right, Strut?
That was a long time ago, Vapor.
Okay, I think it's KC-10. Anyway, so
just say yes.
It's a big freaking basket. So Strut's like, "Why don't you go back in and like replug or just try to bang it back into place?" And I'm like, "All right," because I'm thinking to myself, we've done the math already, and we're like, if I can't get this in, I'm going to flame out because if you don't pressurize. People say, "Well, you can gravity feed." Well, you can't gravity feed with an anhedral wing. Remember that. Your tips are lower, so the fuel doesn't flow into the engine because, anhedral wing, it doesn't work too well. So we're kind of like, really big. So here we are. What was that called? Scarborough Shores. So Strut and I are out over Scarborough Shoals, way the frick out, off the west of the Philippines. And I'm like, yeah, if I can't, I'm punching out and we can't make it back. And Strut's, analyzing this shit and talking me through. He's like, "All right, dude, put your probe back in that basket and try to bang it back in." So basket comes back. I kind of pull up, put the probe inside, and then I just kick like right where as hard as I could and just bang it. And it breaks part of that basket. And I'm like, fuck. No, didn't go down the intake. Luckily, it went over the wing. I'm like, well, that was lucky. their basket's fucked up. But guess what? The ball's back in place. And it's like, hey, what happened? I go, dude, the ball's back. He goes, well, put your probe in. I did. He goes, you got pressure? I go, dude, I got pressure. He goes, and Strut is not going to miss a missile X. That's a story of this. He's like,
Let's go.
Go. So, we go right back in. The tanker leaves with a broken basket, and we just leave. And Strut's like, you ready? I go, yeah. He's like, all right, baby, let's go shoot some fucking winders.
That sounds like a night at you at the O Club. Ball.
Well, there's that. And that's how all great aviation tales begin. Greetings, everyone. Repeat here, listening to So There I Was. And I think that's a first for us, Fig, that we've got a show title, Twisted Balls, right in the opening story. Fig, where are you, brother?
Well, I'm in an undisclosed location and in my aluminum tube on vacation. And it is my distinct pleasure to welcome... Holy shit. Let's see.
So we got disco, pisser.
Yeah. Did I catch them all?
Yeah. So here, let me run through it real quick. So we got Auto from episode 3, Two's Off Winchester. Disco from episode 104, coming down like a gun safe with a lot of guns. Pisser from episode 160, Young Guns. And Vapor from episode 62, Stay in the Ejection Envelope. Spiko's running a little bit behind and is going to join us, which means I'm going to go to Strut, with whom I went to PLC senior camp with in the summer of 1983. And Disco will be interested to hear that we share a common friend named Staff Sergeant Gladstone from that very summer. The devil spawned himself, who was our platoon sergeant. So real quickly, Strut, what got you into Marine aviation?
Well, thanks for having me. Well, so there I was. My brother took me to air shows, and so we'd see the Blue Angels, we'd see Harriers, we'd see the Thunderbirds, things like that. And I just said, well, I have to do this for a living because it's cool, right? This is the coolest thing ever. So when it came time to give up smoking dope and getting all liquored up in high school and go to college and get serious, as I called the Air Force recruiter, realizing that they probably had airplanes. So I called them on the phone, and I said, hey, I want to be a pilot in the Air Force. And they said, how's your calculus? And I hung up. So then I said, well, that didn't last long.
My cow's fine. What?
So then I called the Navy. I went to the phone book and went to my rotary dial phone and called the Navy. And some guy answered, and I said, hey, I want to be a fighter pilot in the Navy. And he goes, hang on a second. And he's holding his hand over the phone. He's going, Chief, do we have airplanes in the Navy? So I hung up. So now I'm batting zero. My dreams are shattered in 2 phone calls. And so I'm wandering around my community college in between classes in Orlando, Florida, the only college I could get into. And so, it's in between classes. They sort of ran it like a high school. And so I decided, well, I'll walk through building 3 Rotunda, maybe I'll bump into Amy or something. So
did they have a major
Rotunda 3 is usually team. And so usually Rotunda 3 is just jammed up with people. So I walk in there and there's nobody in the Rotunda. It's like somebody threw a damn anthrax grenade in there. Okay. So I looked in there. I go, what the fuck is going on? And the Marine recruiters are there, and they've got a nice table set up, and everybody's hugging the walls to get to the nearest exit. So I marched straight across to these guys, and they've got a damn video showing an A4 JATO takeoff and all this. And I go, where do I sign? And they start telling me, well, here's how much money you're going to make. Here's what I go, I don't need to hear any of that shit. Where do I sign? And that's where it all ended. And They signed me up for PLCs. I passed the air test on the minimum score, and here I am.
If the minimum wasn't good enough, it wouldn't be the minimum.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
All you got to do is just get over the finish line.
That's right. What do they call the last guy in medical school? Doctor.
Doctor.
Fantastic.
Now, if you want some more gory details, I'll tell you those, but that's the short story.
Nice. No, very cool. So yeah, so we wound up doing PLCs together. Did you commission right away, or did you have another year of school to go after that? You commissioned after that?
Yeah, 84 I commissioned.
Okay. Yeah.
Then went off to I was golf company, 84.
Okay. So I was Alpha 185, which started in October of 84 because of the whole.
So you guys were all caught up in the general baloney thing.
Yep. Go to the fleet for a few years.
My ass off.
Wait.
Hey, they drug our asses in there and said, "Hey, we got too many people laying on the beach down in Pensacola. You can leave. You can pack your shit and leave." This is at the end of TBS, and I'm like, "What?" They go,
"Wow.
You can leave, or you can pick from this very long list of really great MOSs and give up your air guarantee, or you can pick from this very short list of shitty MOSs, and we'll send you to the fleet for a year, and then we'll send you to flight school later. So I was an aviation supply officer, school trained, and I ran a damn warehouse down in Beaufort before I went down to Pensacola to only find these honey company shitbirds ahead of me.
Wow. What'd you call that? Wait, somebody said, was that the General Baloney? What the hell is that?
It was baloney, but it was baloney, really.
That's the general that came up with this great idea.
Pulled us all out and sent us to the fleet.
It was actually a mistake. It was a manpower problem, because then we finally made it down to Pensacola, and we were all mustering up there at Milton drinking coffee, and they had an emergency meeting, main side, Pensacola, get your asses down here right now in your PT gear. And we all ran down there, and they go, "Oh, all you guys that went to the fleet, that was all a mistake. From now on, every AI class is nothing but Marines. We got to get you caught up."
Unbelievable. So there was a giant bubble. There really was no bubble.
Which they popped.
Yeah.
No bubble.
It was actually a circle jerk with a piece of bread, and somebody had to eat the bread.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So anyway, the good news was we went through flight school fairly quickly.
Well, okay. At least there's a little
silver lining. So Strut, you remember? So Maloney came down and talked to us, and remember the Navy all of a sudden showed up and said, "Hey, we'll take everybody." Remember that?
Yeah.
There was a guy in my class. His name was Mark Dola. He was in my boot camp, because I did OCS after college. And he'd been a Wall Street stock trader. Pretty successful, knew a lot of people. When all that shit came down with Maloney, he wrote a letter to his congressman and his senator. And that's why the Navy showed up. And they said, "Hey, we'll take everybody." And remember the Marine Corps said, "You can't have them." And the Navy said, "Yeah, we can. Fuck off." So that's
and they did. A bunch of guys jump ship.
Oh man, in my class, we probably had 30% of the people jump ship. I was walking down the hall to go eat me, and we had a Cobra pilot. He was the SPC for, I don't know, second platoon or third or whatever. And he grabbed me and he pulls me in his office and you're disloyal puke, blah 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 blah. So I go, "Okay, I'll stay."
How'd that work out for you?
I ended up going in the end because I kind of wanted to go to IOC, and IOC was freaking awesome. And then serving for a year, or it was like 10 months. Serving for 10 months in the infantry was one of the best times I've ever had in the Marine Corps. It was epic. I had such a good time.
Well, how did you get infantry and Strut got supply officer? How did that work?
Because I finished way ahead of him at TBS.
I wasn't going to go there. I was just curious how that worked.
Hey, Tom, were you in golf company?
Yeah.
I was in honey, man. I was in honey company.
We didn't get offered the Navy. We didn't get offered the Navy disco. We didn't get offered that.
Oh, they dirtied their dicks on you. Hey, so I got to throw this one out there too. So Vapor's talking about the Philippines and Strut and all that stuff. I got a great story. You're going to love this one. So I know you'll remember this, Vapor, and I know Pisser will for sure. And I don't know if I will or not. But anyway, so the Philippines back in the day when we were young men. So back then,
It looks way too real, bro.
You go down and you have you sit at these big banquet tables in the O Club at the Philippines. It was freaking epic. And you'd get, they'd bring all the little girls would bring in the menus, and you have all this food and all this liquor and all this crap. And we'd all be sitting down there, talking trash and telling stories and being idiots. And Vapor, when Vapor got done musting girls, doing that one, and getting the skin to regenerate on the top of his toes, we'd go to the club, and so we're eating chow, and we're kind of watching Vapor, because Vapor's sitting there telling stories and stuff. And anyway, Vapor would grab somebody's water glass, and he'd go, and he'd put it back down, and we'd all look at the water glass, because it'd be like in front of Turbo, or it'd be in front of somebody else. We're going, I wonder if he's going to drink that. And Vapor just keeps telling a story. We're just going, we're all looking at the glass. I mean, just all this food coming and all this service. It was awesome. It was awesome service in the Philippines. It was.
I remember this is
the last bastion of American colonialism.
This is the rated G version of the Philippines, but I remember that the fad became the blowguns. And so, you had those blowguns with the feathers on them, and you had the plastic bead with the metal spike in it. And so these things were fairly impressive. I had a velocity of about 400 per second, and we'd go shoot them in all the walls at the O Club, and you could barely pull the damn dart out. Well, I figured out that you could pull the damn metal spike out of the dart. And so you were only shooting the ball. So we'd sit there and lie in ambush, and somebody'd walk into the damn room, and I'd lay down this bead, and I'd pump it right into the center of their chest. And I mean, we had the best Lee Harvey Oswald impersonations in the world, where everybody would completely, fold up expecting this damn metal spike to hit them in the chest.
Hey,
That's the cleanest story I can come up with.
Yeah, do you guys remember? I'm going to tell the story of Dog Straw's interaction with the Mew Commander. So this is right after Cope Thunder. So we've just finished up Cope Thunder, big exercise.
Which was awesome.
We're all at the club, and we're celebrating. And everybody's drinking, and they got the little band going, all that type of stuff. And if you guys remember, the Mew Commander's there, and he's talking to a distinguished gentleman in a suit. And Dog hears them talking, and they're talking about like operations and stuff. And, Dog's had a couple of drinks. So he walks over there with only the subtlety Dog could show, and says, and kind of starts listening to him. And he says, that ain't how you fucking do it. And he starts lecturing him. And the distinguished gentleman says something, and he goes, yeah, you know what the fuck you're talking about, and blah, blah, blah. And the Mew Commander says to the distinguished gentleman, sir, what the major meant to say, and that's when Dog clues in and goes, well, if that's the Mew Commander, and he called that guy sir, Dog goes, hey, I know he outranks me, but it sounds like you outrank him, and I don't know who the fuck you are. So he says this to the general, and right about this time, the general's like, Major, it's about to start ripping into him. And Rosie was hearing this. And so we were kind of all standing over the drinking, and Rosie runs over to us and says, quick, everybody start singing happy birthday to Dog. And so if you remember, we jumped up on the stage, we sang happy birthday to Dog, and Rosie runs over there. I go, Dog, sir, you got to join us for your birthday celebration. And he said, this is right in the middle of this. General's about to freaking rip him a new asshole.
No.
And it just kind of, and hears that.
I
forget who was with him. And he goes, well, you're out of line, but I see it's your birthday. So why don't you just enjoy your evening and have a good time? And that's how we got freaking Dog out of some fucking serious shit.
And you're talking Rosie Greer, right?
Rosie Greer. And I forget who got up on the stage. Was it one of you guys got up on the stage and started singing happy birthday? Because I remember, one of you guys, a couple of you, took the mic out of the singer, little Filipino band, and got a couple of the guys ripped the mic out of their hands and just started singing it.
I remember Rosie doing that, man. I remember Rosie doing that and singing the song by Axl Rose too.
Oh, sweet child of mine.
Sweet child of mine.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit.
He thought he was acting.
You guys, I don't know if you guys.
Well, you guys remember the legend of the wildebeest, yes? The wildebeest. Remember, we all heard about the wildebeest.
Oh God.
Well, the wildebeest was real.
Okay.
So we landed. We ended up in the Oak Club at Okinawa, and we're all sitting at the big table at the Oak Club, and the wildebeest is sitting at the damn bar. So this is the first time, the young guns realized that this person actually existed. Right? And she was a female navigator on 135s, and she was a power lifter. I mean, I sat there and watched her do 5 reps with 2 1/4 in the gym. Well, she sits there and gets drunk at the end of the bar. She sits there and gets drunk at the end of the bar, and we'd never talk to her. And so she looks over at Dog, and she walks over there and reaches across the table and grabs him by the flight suit and snatches him out of his chair. Y'all remember that?
Yeah, I do.
She put his hands on him and pulled him out of his chair, and we're all up, and then we got to know her, and we were all going out drinking with her and everything. And she attacked me one night out in town. I ended up in a bar fight with the wildebeest.
Well, you remember Disco passed out that night, and while he was passed out, we borrowed some of her makeup, and Disco that night. So Disco woke up a little while later with lipstick, pretty little fingernails, kind of back to what he used to do back in Slowtown.
Oh boy!
And he's like, "What's going on?" We're like, "Disco, man, don't ask, don't tell, baby." And we think the beast got attracted to him because I think she was so masculine. She was a dyke.
Oh fuck, man! I remember that chick. I saw her in the gym, man. The first time I saw her, I went, "Oh yeah, that's her."
Oh yeah.
I was in her room. I got to her room, just for the record. That's when we were getting the makeup.
I saw her doing lat pull downs of 180 or 200. I'm like, God damn,
beast, man.
strong.
He was a freaking beast.
Yeah.
Hey, so the Okinawa Oak Club, do you remember Disco breaking up a fight where a Cobra guy swings at Sal? I'm trying to intervene.
Yes, I remember that.
Sal ducks.
He was a Cobra guy. You're pushing on his chest, and he freaking sucker punched your ass.
No, he was swinging. He was swinging at Sal. And Sal ducked. I was trying to get in between them. Yeah, Sal ducked, and I got friggin' nailed. Ba-bam! And all you guys did was laugh. I'm down on the floor bleeding. Everybody's laughing. Hey, how about Vapor's toes? Can we talk about Vapor's toes?
Yeah. Let's talk about Vapor's Mustang.
Or the wax.
Not again.
So we've got, who's in that room? It's Rosie, Pisser, Disco, and Vapor.
Yeah. That place was a freaking, remember we got that pallet of beer and we pallet jacked it over, broke it down, brought the pallet in, restacked it up. It was like $2.50 a case, and we drank all of it.
And Vapor destroyed the top of his feet.
He ruined it, man. He freaking soiled it.
Hey, before we get down this path too far, I was telling RePete earlier, I want to give a shout out to the person who really built 542. And a lot of people don't know this, but for the audience, the Harrier was a brand new aircraft, and these stories here, we went to Westpac. We were the first full squadron to go to Westpac. And so before you deploy, you lock in for 6 months. And the reason we're all together right now is because of one guy, and it's Strut. Strut was told by the CO to build the squadron. And so Strut went down to 203, and Disco was already in the squadron with Strut. And he said, I want you to go down there and pick out the guys. You need 9 lieutenants or whatever. And so Strut went down to 203, and he was interviewing, he was talking to his instructor buddies and came over this. And I remember Strut told me this story because Strut was the admin officer. And so he went down there and was talking to guys. He goes, look, I don't necessarily want the best pilots. I want good pilots, but I want good dudes. And he is the reason, me, Pisser, Rosie, Beeve, Turbo, Sal. He's the reason we are all in 542 is because Strut's the guy that built that squadron. And then if your audience wants to know, we're on a group chat right now. I mean, we've been chatting with each other we've been friends for 36 years. And the reason we are is because Strut built this team And then we did 6. So we're locked in for 6 months. We do a 6-month Westpac deployment. We come home. We're home for 2 months. We're gone another 8 months. So we were together like straight for like 22 months, and that's why, I think back on when I got to the squadron and I'm like, I've been friends with these guys for 36 years because Strut put this freaking team together. So right now, here's the fucking Strut building the fucking Young Guns and building the 542 that kicked ass in Westpac and fucking Desert Storm.
Nicely done, Strut.
Vapor, I appreciate the accolades. However, we need to make a couple of brief corrections here. I worked in ops at the time. I was the operations officer during the war, and Disco gets half the credit here.
Yeah, I know
because because it was Disco and I that were entrusted by Smoke to go do this mission. Okay, and so it was Smoke who was unpopular with the older pilots in the squadron, and they remembered Cox, and they were and so me and Disco were getting hell from Chief and Star, and we realized we weren't going to survive it. And so when Smoke realized that he needed us to build the squadron up because he just kind of needed some help with some young meat, he sent me, and it was actually me and Disco that did that, that went down there and did those interviews. And it was Smoke who enabled the whole thing. And so the story went like this. Well, which ones should we take, Strut? And I go, we should take all of them. And so basically there were no bad apples in the bunch. There wasn't any standouts, really. Everybody was awesome. So we took this big, huge recruiting class out of 203, and it changed the entire complex of the squadron, which at that time was seated in, well, you can't do that. Well, why? Because you've never done it. And so we went to a way more aggressive command structure and trained way harder and did way more aggressive things after that. And so Disco, here's you, raise a glass to Disco.
Yeah, Disco, sorry, buddy, and that. And if I can tell one more story about this, because the guy is so humble, he'll never say that. Not only do we have that, but then we also picked up some guys on the way. And the guy I want to point out right now is a guy who went the first Harriers to Westpac, which was VMA 331. They didn't have a full squadron, though, so they don't get credit for the full squadron deployment. They did a partial squadron. He does 6 months in Westpac, then gets recruited and cross-decks right to 542. So he does 12 months straight in Westpac, comes home 2 months, stays with us, does Desert Shield, Desert Storm. So this gentleman does 6 months, 12, plus 8, 20 out of 22 months. Raise a toast to Ed Otto, the Fleet Green, who has the record
Dude.
Out of 22 months deployed. And in the entire time I was a monitor and cut orders on people, I never know anybody who did that. So not only we did that, what Disco and frickin' Strut built, we recruited guys in like Otto, who's a fucking stud, who never said no to the fucking country or his squadron or his buddies and said, yeah, I'll fucking do that. I don't give a shit how hard it was. He would do it. And then who went down and got like some of the 2 or 3 guys, like that Spiko? Who did that, Strut and Disco? Who went and got him?
I don't really know. I would love to say that I did know how that happened, but I can't tell you because it all happened so fast that a lot of these experienced guys like Clance and Spiko, I think that they probably were qualified, and that may have happened at the group level. Somebody else may know more than I do about that. But all I want to say is, Otto, it was a pleasure flying with you in that damn war. And I was glad that we were together and you kept my ass alive, and I apprate it.
Full automatic.
We had some great times.
Fucking
I'll never forget the one. We used to always we hook up with the F-18 because for people that don't know, for the first part of the war, they had these what they call K boxes, and there may have been another box, but essentially they were kill boxes that we had on our map. And so our mission was like Strut and I would get up every day and we'd fly out there, and we'd typically do 2 missions. We'd turn at a small place called Tanajeet. So we'd fly out there with wall-to-wall, either Rockeye or Mark 82s, which are Rockeye is a cluster bomb, and the Mark 82 is a big 500-pounders. And then we'd also have a full gun. So we'd go out there, we'd link up with the F-18. The F-18 would find a target. He would circle. We'd do the wagon wheel at 15,000 feet or whatever. We'd roll in, get the he'd either laser or he'd put the Willie Pete, the white phosphorus mark out there. He'd get a mark, and we'd find the target. We'd roll in, lock the angle rate bombing set on, the thing in the nose there that was a TV camera essentially. That would give us height above target, and then either Strut would lead or I would lead. Boom, we'd drop our bombs, and Shaq hit the target, whatever. And then we'd always stick around because we say, like, hey, we still got a gun. Let's see if we could find a target. So I'll never forget this one time. There were these fuel dump. There's this fuel dump, and they were like these big, I don't know, oil or gasoline filled drums that were probably the size you see when you drive down the road, like on a highway in New Jersey or something, like an oil refinery. And we're like, hey, let's hit that with the gun. So Otto's in, shoot off my 200.
And then he's off Winchester. Oh, sorry, dude.
Yeah, Winchester. Strut's in. We look back over my shoulder, and here's this big top on this oil can that just goes blows off the top. Yes, we got that
Beautiful.
one.
Beautiful.
Well, you can't let them have any gas, can you? That's bad. Can't let them have gas.
Exactly. We got secondaries.
Yeah, and kudos to the accuracy of that freaking gun, huh? That was
man,
awesome.
I was happy with it.
Yeah. Hey, I would tell you another thing about Otto. Like I said, Otto was fucking so operational and fleet smart that he got sent up to the meth for the big fucking battle plan. This is it. And they had told me, said, hey, you go along, take notes, with whatever the fucking Otto says. So Otto and I get in a truck and we head up to like the meth command post. They're going to do the big freaking brief of what's going to go on. And we get there, and Otto, remember what happened? The Marine Corps casualty estimates, people always think, oh, it's a big cakewalk, Desert Storm. And I'm like, man, the casualty estimates were ugly. The Marine Corps casualty estimate were 50%, but the Brits casualty estimates came in at 70%. And it was politically unacceptable back in the UK for that to happen. So we're up there at the MEF, and what people got to remember is the Marine Corps, we don't have that much armor. I mean, we've got some tanks, but nothing compared to the Army. And so we needed some tanks. So they assigned the Brits to us because the Brits, these units out of Germany were very heavy mech and had a lot of tanks. So we'd gone up and trained with the Scots Royal Dragoon Guards and stuff, and worked with those guys. And so we're all ready. We've been coordinated with them. We're going to fly close air support for the Marines and the Brits. Brits like to go to war with the Marines because, especially after what happened in Korea, they don't trust the fucking Army, but they trust the Marines. And so we're up there at the briefing, and what happens? Remember that, Otto? They canceled it, and there was a guy named Colonel Carter, and he had just gotten word from frickin' headquarters that said the Brits aren't going through the breach with the Marines. Casualty's too high, and they pulled out, and they were going to join the left hook with the Army. And so we go all the way up there and come back, and they're like, "What?" And they're like, I remember the skipper was talking to Otto. He's like, "What's the battle plan?" I'm like, we don't know now. It's changing because the Brits just got pulled out. And we go, Brits got pulled out. That was all our fucking tanks. So Otto, you probably remember more of that stuff about what actually went on, but jump in.
No, man, that's honestly I don't remember too much about it, but that sounds right.
Yeah. That was fucking crazy. So we did all that work with the Scots Royal Dragoon Guards and stuff. By the way, we learned we had boiled egg sandwiches, shit like that, and we drove that Simtar, that little freaking APC they had, Scout Vehicle. That thing was cool. I mean, these guys are straight out of the desert rat kind of guys. A bunch of Brits whipping around in freaking tan armored personnel shit, and it was pretty freaking cool. But anyway, yeah. So people think it's a cakewalk, but man, it was not looking real positive. It was a little bit somber, and before that stuff kicked out, I mean, everything turned out well because I think we did a great job, but it was not looking real good there at the beginning.
I think
I remember we sat in our damn ready room, and that damn lieutenant colonel battalion commander, he sat there and cried and told us that we had to save his ass. if we didn't wipe out this artillery, that they were all going to die. This guy begged us to save. Do y'all remember that? He came in our ready room and sat there and begged us to save. I said, I was talking to somebody. I was sitting next to somebody. I said, is this damn grunt on his knees in front of us air wingers? Is this the first time in history this has ever happened? He's begging us to save his ass. Yeah, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah, we'll do it. Let's go. Hey, you guys don't know about I don't know, 9 months, a year ago, Venom got hold of me because there was a guy, Lieutenant Colonel Kurth, who had a HMLA squadron over there. He was trying to get hold of somebody, and we got paired up, and we started shooting the shit. And I don't know, somehow we started talking a little about Desert Storm and stuff, and I had mentioned how I met General Myatt, at his COC. And he looks at me and he says, I'm personal friends with General Myatt. And I'm like, what? And Disco, the guy lives in San Francisco. No shit. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. He said, yeah. He said, let me talk to him. Maybe you guys get on the phone. God, we did a 45-hour freaking Zoom call like this. And I fucking talked to General Myatt 35 years later after meeting at the COC. And he told me
that was after you got shot down, right?
Yeah. So, I had gotten a helo ride back because they were sending orders by helicopter, and so I got a helicopter ride. And I'm sitting in the helo. If you guys remember, there was that counterattack out of the Al Burgon oil fields, and they had gotten within 300 meters of his COC, and he wouldn't leave. So anyway, the air officer sees me, and he's like, General Myatt needs to fucking see you, see like a hairy guy shot down that's out there, supporting his grunts and stuff like that. And anyway, he told me later, he gave me some numbers. He said, we had 48 artillery attacks on us. And he said, we counter batteried 28 of them with our organic artillery and stuff that they had. But the other ones, he said, every one was taken out by Harriers. He said, our counter battery, you guys did 1/3 of the counter battery for the 2nd Marine Division and took out every one of them. And I wanted to tell you guys that. So he was like, I couldn't believe the guy. He's got to be I don't know how old he was, but he's fucking old. But he told me stuff. I'm like, holy shit. I said, I never really researched that. But great guy. And, lives in San Francisco. Super good dude. Hey, Disco, what's the name of that hotel in San Francisco? The Marine Corps.
Marine Memorial Hotel.
Yeah, he's on the board of directors of that.
Yeah, he was the CEO of the Marine Memorial for.
That's it.
Now it's a Huey guy. It's the CEO, but before him was Mike Myatt, and that's he was real involved in the Bay Area. But yeah, it was. I remember getting talked to by, I think it was Myatt, or it was one of the Marine generals saying, "Hey, look, you guys are my long range artillery."
That was Boomer.
Yeah, it's Boomer. That's right. Yeah. Because he was basically saying, hey, they've got this South African, I think it was South African artillery that could outstick our artillery.
Yeah,
he said, we need to get rid of this stuff because they can outrange us. So you guys are going to have to take this stuff out. That's your mission in life. I remember we were just constantly hammering on that stuff. We'd go with the strike package. We'd go with a harm shooters. We'd go with a strike package. All that stuff. We just go with all that stuff to just take them out. I remember that.
Hey, I got some numbers for the audience. I can wrote some of this stuff down real quick. The coalition had 38 nations. We had 680,000 on the Allied side, and Iraq had 540,000 in Kuwait. Usually you want to attack with a 3-1 advantage. Yeah, we didn't quite have that. The Iraqis had 4,200 tanks. We had 3,500. The Iraqis had 3,000 artillery and 2,800 APC. So that's what you're talking about, Disco. Remember, Boomer came down and talked to our MAG and said, hey, that's what I need you guys to do, because 3,000 frickin' pieces of artillery they're going to be advancing into. And I think we can all look back on that fact and just go, the casualties were light because that's all we did for frickin' 30-some days is hit self-propelled artillery, rocket launchers, and frickin' fixed artillery and nonstop. I mean, we also were the only idiots that did napalm. Yes.
And I think it was Strut that came up with the tactic, because it's like, okay, you have to go in there and take this. You have to slow down. You have to go low, get shot at, and drop this shit.
Get the wave of the Iraqis in the trenches.
We're like, are you fucking out of your mind? And I think Tom was the one that came up with this tactics that we used.
Well, all I was telling you, Disco, is that the weapon actually had carriage and release limits.
It did?
So you don't kill yourself.
That had to be adhered to. And they were low and slow without much dive angle, and that was the hand we were dealt.
Yeah.
What was I supposed to do again?
But you and I had one of the first missions.
Yeah. Remember we did a 45 or 60 degree dive. Then we pulled out to do a 5 to 10 degree because the shit was designed, to get spread. If you come down vertically, they just hit in a spot.
Yeah, we had to go slow and low.
Yeah, you got to scrape them. And
nobody else will do it.
Well, guys, let's go back 3 spaces. We really need to go back 3 spaces because we're missing a lot of the whole Desert Storm thing if we don't at least say this. We had just come out of Asia. We had just come out of the Crow Valley. And they shot our asses off in the Crow Valley. I mean, let's face it, it took us a while to figure that shit out. And in the Crow Valley, we had all kind of terrain to hide behind. Well, out in the desert, we didn't have shit to hide behind.
No, we didn't.
So all I knew was when they put those fire cannon flap wheel shit linked up with that 57 millimeter gun, they're going to shred our asses.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we all thought. We were sure of it. And so I remember me and Otto are sitting there briefing, and, we're talking about what's going to happen out there. And I go, Otto, and we termed it, how much shit yourself time was there going to be? And that was the metric of coasting in to coasting out. And that was a measurable amount of time called shit yourself time. Remember that, Otto?
I do, man. 100%.
So that's what we termed it.
That's called
so we knew, and you know what? Those son of a bitches never fucking tied up their acquisition and fire control radars to those 57 millimeter guns. And thank God they didn't, because a lot of us wouldn't be sitting here right now.
That's true. That's 100% true.
Yeah, it's freaking nuts.
Holy shit.
Yeah, we were lucky. We had a good campaign. I mean, you can just tell, the whole process, right, I think worked really well. And, the way that we fought the war was really very effective, right? I mean, we had a good rollback plan. I would say you could see it actually on hold. If you go fast forward to modern times, look at what Israel did in Iran. I mean, not to tell too many secrets, but I mean, taking down the integrated air defense to Strut's point, you've got to take out the long range radar. Then you got to take out the other, sort of some of the fire control radars that are controlling some of those pieces. And there's some key pieces to those surface to air missiles and the other guns, right? That if you take those out, they're essentially firing blind, right? They can still shoot, but it's hell of a lot less accurate. So I think once, tribute to like what we did in Desert Storm and then later in OEF, we had great tactics as, the U.S. and allied forces. And really that's a tribute to, how we ended up with as few casualties, even in our squadron, as we did and other squadrons. And then on the Marine Corps and, any of the ground forces, right? I think we really had, some of the things, like you say, we learned from the Crow Valley was how to do that, right? How not to get yourself in that situation. So
it all comes down.
I think it's a tribute.
And lethality and
there's another thing that the audience needs to hear. This is important for the audience to hear.
I just wanted let me finish up on the napalm stuff, because what people need to understand is that thing was designed for jungle warfare. And so when these guys are talking about, when Strut and Otto are talking about it, so the audience knows, when you drop napalm, you got to come in very shallow. I mean, so we're coming in like 1,000 feet. Here they are. They're not even going to fucking fly below 10,000 feet. Yet we're delivering a weapon that has to be delivered, but like under 1,500 feet and like a 5 or 10 degree dive. So we were the only aircraft that dropped napalm, and the frickin', for whatever reason, the stupid PR, they didn't want to say we were burning them. So they said, they're lighting off the oil trenches. And I'm like, shit, none of us lit off a fucking oil trench. We lit off fucking infantry trenches. And for 3 days straight, the biggest balls in that fucking theater were the Harrier pilots who came in at 20-some thousand feet, did a 60-degree dive, did a fucking high G pullout to get into a 5-degree dive going over infantry trenches with all the fucking AAA still there, dropping napalm across to kill these guys, suffocate them in their bunkers, and hit a big psyops thing. They think that God is throwing fire on them. Nobody else was fucking asked to do that. The only other community that I respect that really put their balls on the line were the Brit Tornado guys who delivered the Durandal runway cratering bomb, and they had to go down that runway at a few hundred feet, and they're the only other guys that flew a profile like us did. So people say, oh, fucking Harriers, you weren't sorry I got shot down. I'm like, nobody else fucking flew the profiles we did.
Hey,
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
Right
That's
on.
what I'm fucking talking about.
Rosie and I,
What a fucking stick.
Rosie and I dropped napalm on T-72.
Story, Vapor.
Wait a minute. Who else flew napalm?
There's more to that story, Vapor.
All right, Strut, roll in.
Not every Harrier squadron dropped computed deliveries. You know, that's another thing that we did operationally. We dropped computed deliveries.
Hey, Tom, who else flew napalm besides us? They were freaking stupid enough that I don't think there was any other. Was there any other Harrier squadrons that flew besides us?
Napalm?
Yeah.
I thought we all did it. 331 didn't, but I thought we all did it at King of Duels.
From the shore? Yeah.
It went on for a couple of days.
It's like 3 days. I got 3 days of a napalm strikes.
It was like 3 days. Now you remember the software problem we had with the cluster munitions. Remember you come in for the dive and there was no sight.
Yeah.
Remember there was nothing came up until 10,000 feet.
There was like 1.2
We didn't even know that, so we hit there.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, you're just like hanging in, going, hey, it's gonna come up any second.
Yeah, any second.
Yeah, and so
has it come up yet?
What we had to do is 542. 542 made the difficult decision to drop computed with the shit that wasn't working right because we knew we were going to have to go low to get the right amount of density with the cluster bombs, and not every squadron did that. There were squadrons. Harrier squadrons that dropped DSL.
Oh, no shit. That's bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah, that leads to another thing. I'm really proud of the fact. I actually looked this shit up too. The one thing about the Harrier is we not only were the only freaking TAC Air that never used a tanker, we also didn't have a dump target. That bullshit, like they'd go out, well, it's 2 threat or this, and they just had like a dump target. Which is like drop your bombs from 25,000 fucking feet. We never did that shit. If we weren't down in there with a fucking target ID, we didn't drop. And that's part of being a fucking professional attack pilot. Because don't fucking forget, fighter pilots make fucking movies, attack pilots make history.
God bless America.
Baby.
Hey, wait.
Hey,
hold on a second.
I got a question when you're done, Fig.
Can you say that again?
Fighter pilots make faggot fucking movies, and attack pilots make history. Look at fucking.
I'm going to move my F-18.
I know, right? I know. Hold on.
Torpedo planes at Midway. Think about it. Those torpedo planes. How much fighter cover did all those torpedo squadrons have at Midway? None. And they all got fucking shot down. But they threw the fucking Japanese fighters down to the water. So the dive bombers came in. There were no fucking fighter cover there, and they sunk the Hiryu, the Kaga, the Soryu, and the Akagi. One moment like that, attack pilots changed the fucking history trajectory
of the world.
They dirtied their dick.
Goddamn right, baby.
Of the world.
Okay. Something you said triggered this, and I want to get either something Pisser said. I don't know if it was the XO or the CO that said you guys at one point had fired, I don't know, like 9,000 rounds in 4 days of 25 millimeter. And the skipper said, or whoever was asking, well, what are you guys shooting at?
Everything.
Anything and everything.
Can you add any flavor to that specific? Because
anything. I remember shooting at what was a BTR 60. Some faggot was shooting, and then I saw the little. You see it looks like a camera shooting. You go, hey, they're taking my picture. No, those are the muzzles shooting at your ass. So I turned on them and we shot at everything.
Hey, what?
We never came back with
Can I talk about
we
the
never
Strut?
came back with
Yeah, we never came back with bullets, and I know Turbo challenged the number that I threw out there, but Turbo was fine with dogs, so those guys probably weren't shooting at everything. But Strut, I think, introduced the concept of the hot gun, where while we were in our dive run for the bombs, we would uncork uncork the gun before and after the pickle. So track pickle. And we never came back with bullets. Rosie, if Rosie and I ever came back with bullets, it was something weird happened.
Because the gun jammed?
Yeah.
I got a good story on that one.
Go.
And this is pretty funny. So I was with Clance one morning, and it was, I can't think of the name. It was like a dock complex on the coast in Kuwait, south of Kuwait City. And so Clance and I are flying in there. We dive on this thing, and I lock it up with my ARBS TV at the end of the dock. You know, and it's all I could see all these AAA pieces out there. I'm like, this is going to be epic. So I squeezed, so I got locked up. I squeezed the trigger, and all of a sudden my ARBS TV goes, so the bullets are going all over the fucking place. What? And then the ground just opens up, and both Clance and I are like, you know, one of the like, fuck. So we both just, you kind of level out, peel out that way, and head toward Iran. We're just going across the bridge. Persian Gulf are going, holy shit, look at all the guns shooting at us. I mean, there's flak blowing up all around us. I'm like, ah! And we just got to go away. I'm like, that was really a freaking brilliant move on my part.
Well, do you guys remember Mongoose in an all pilots meeting holding a piece of paper in front of his, and he was just shocked by how much 25 millimeter we'd shot. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, I do. What are you guys shooting at?
He's like, what are you shooting at? We're like, fucking everything. That's right before we got. That's why right before we got Snatcher's lecture on, you know, no more brown star loving and, you know, tadpole soup and all that shit.
You're guys need to be professional. Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, you know, man. I'm going to tell, he's not here, but Wade Straw, Dog Straw, you know,
oh my God.
We actually finally got him to tell the story of his Silver Star. And I think that's where we kind of got that. I mean, we kind of, you know, Mongoose, you know, was a great CO and so on, but we also took on a lot of the character of our operations officers, Major Wade Straw.
Oh,
and I remember it was like Pisser and me and Disco, you know, a couple guys, we're all at the bar. And we finally, you know, kind of cornered Dog. We're like, you got to tell us how you got your Silver Star in Vietnam. And he's like, well, you know, we had to suppress an LZ and, you know, we had to shoot a lot of shit. And he stops talking. And we're like, there's got to be more to it. And he says, well, you know, we shot till we fired everything. And we're like, okay, that can't be it. And he looks at us and he goes, I mean, everything. And we're like, define everything. And he's like, the rockets, the cannon, their M16 carbines, their 38 caliber service revolvers, and he said they used to go to the club, get the highball glasses. You pulled the pin on your grenade, stuck them in there, threw them out. They broke, the glass would break, and the boom would pull, and they would go off. So they were over the VC. Canopy open when they were frickin' Winchester, emptied their frickin', you know, M16 carbines, had their 38 revolvers, and were throwing grenades. That's why he got a Silver Star.
Remember him telling
Cobra? Was he Cobra guy?
They only got a Silver Star for that.
Remember him telling the time he was shit faced and he got called for a mission. He jumped in the helicopter and he goes, I was baked. They're out there just shooting at everything, everything. That guy.
That's why we emptied our guns, because he emptied his fucking 38 service revolver.
He was a cool dude. Hey, you guys don't know this, but when I was when I was working for Coca-Cola, I was in Honolulu, and I saw Tiger Tails there going, huh. So I ran him down, and his dog was a CO. He had, I can't think of his name out, Cubby and Anacarico, Chico. And he was emptying, he was doing what Pisser never did, which was lose money to Dog. He was cleaning those two fuckers out. So he was wiping them out. And I'm sitting there talking to him. I'm like, hey, so, you know, this is classic Dog. I love that. He was so awesome. You remember, he was like, hey, you stupid fucker. What are you doing? What the fuck's wrong with you? He had that voice. So I go, hey, sir, I got a question for you. He goes, what? What the fuck do you want to talk to me about?
Man, I miss him.
I go, how do you like being a lieutenant colonel? He goes, you know what, Disco? The thing I like best about being a lieutenant colonel is there that many more people I can rub my balls all over their face.
That is so
That was classic.
That is dog.
Oh shit, boy!
That guy was a great American, man. He was awesome.
Well, every time he got drunk, he said, "Where's Pisser? I need my money."
Yeah.
So I would clean him out.
You would. Clean
he owed me
him
like
out.
thousands of dollars.
Wait, hold on a second. Were you playing cards? Were you rolling dice?
Yeah,
what were you doing?
Oh God.
Poker. And I wanted to kick his ass.
All right.
Hey, Pisser, you remember Cold Lake? You guys remember we went to Cold Lake?
What's that?
Remember
Cold Lake.
Oh yeah.
So we went up there. It was more expensive than it should have been. We come back and all this money's like disappeared. So Sue Dooley at the group calls me up and goes, "Hey, because I was an S4. God, thank God. What favorite job in the world?" So I go over there. I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" She goes, "Hey, you guys are missing about $500." And I'm
No, it was like 2,000. It was all the rental car money.
It was a lot.
A lot.
A lot. And I'm going, what? So I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. And then finally I figure out what it was. So Dog had taken his vacation money with Elaine and he'd spent it to cover his gambling debts with the urinator. And I'm going, there's no freaking way I'm going to take the hit for this because I can't afford $2,000. So I go over there and go, I go back to the squad and go, "Hey, sir, you have to pony up." He goes, "My wife will fucking kill me, bud." That's not my problem.
So you got to back up.
I
got it, Disco. I got to set it up for you. So what happened is we're going to Cold Lake, Canada, and the skipper told Dog, "Hey, take like 7 planes, meet us there, and get this many flight hours." So it's Dog, Disco, Dog, Six Pack, Scar, me, Pisser, and so we're gonna head there, but we go. I remember they said, "Hey, we'll go there, via freaking Salt Lake City." We go, "Fuck, why do we go to Hill Air Force Base? Let's go to fucking Reno and go to Tahoe." So we go there via there. Well, while we're in Tahoe, we get in this fucking, shitty little hotel, and we're hanging out there. And I remember the next morning, we're sitting out. So we all go out that night. The next morning, we're all meeting by the pool. It's one of those little motel pools, shitty place. And Dog comes walking out, and he comes down, and he's in those dolphin shorts he used to wear. Remember those blue ones? And he walks down, and there's a freaking ashtray. And he digs around, finds a cigarette butt, and lights it and starts smoking it. And we're like, "Hey, sir, how'd you do at the casinos last night?" "Well, let me tell you, the lights ain't going to be going out in fucking Reno tonight, if you know what I mean. They can pay their electric bill." He lost all the fucking money for the rental cars. So when we go to Cold Lake, we're walking from the barracks to the squadron, and Smoke is driving by, or he's like, "Why are these guys walking everywhere?" And I remember he stops by. "Oh, what?" And he's joking. He says, "Did you guys miss the van again?" And we're looking at him like, "What van?" And it's by the third day, he finally stops his car and goes, "Why do you guys keep missing the van?" We're like, "Sir, we don't know what you're talking about." He goes, "There's supposed to be a shuttle van." And that's when he found out we didn't have the shuttle van and that there was money was missing. And that's when he called Disco in and said, "Where's the freaking money, and how come there's not vans?"
It was in Westpac and Desert Storm when I kicked his ass in poker to the tune of thousands.
He is.
Holy shit.
There he is, man.
That guy's a fucking great American, man.
Fucking
Sticks is in the background doing magic. Well to go. Way to go, Sticks.
Fucking Dog. What a guy. Hey, I got to tell you guys.
Do you realize how lucky we were to have that guy as our OPSO? How lucky were we to have that guy?
Unbelievable. It's freaking awesome.
The thing was, I remember that. I remember when you're talking about Strut, because I vaguely remember you going down the street and kind of grabbing some guys out of 203. But I remember what we'd do is they'd come in the squadron, because that place was a freaking shit show. Because I don't know if you remember when we all got caught, because remember it was Sal. Because Sharon went to Gustafson and said, "Hey, is there any way you can keep my fiance from going to 542? And he went, "What's going on at 542? So the ship kind of rolled downhill, got to Smoke. He called us all in, and Strut took Lyman sitting. It was Lyman, me, Vern, Strut. It was like 5 or 6 JOs, and we're kind of just kind of going back and forth. And then I remember Tom throwing a couple fucking hand grenades. It was beautiful, and I said, well, hey, since he's doing it, so I started throwing them. And after we're all done, he goes, okay, you guys can go. He goes, hey, Disco, can you stick around for a minute? And I mean, we had a moment, me and Smoke. It got pretty messy. But the thing was as we started getting new guys coming in, because that place was a freaking hot mess. The culture was a disaster in 542. Because I remember when I went to
the older guys were loyal to the old skipper.
Yeah. I mean, it was
they weren't loyal to Smoke.
Yeah. It was just a mess.
Yeah.
I remember Bubbles hated Smoke, and there was a lot of shit going on there. And basically, I mean, I remember that we would get new guys in the squad, and we pull them aside and say, I remember you grabbing them at 203, and we were going out, we were talking to people, and it's like, okay, here's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create a culture and create a great place to be. And it ended up being that 542 was the only squadron that you wanted to go to. It was the coolest place with the coolest people that had the most fun.
Now, what grenade did I throw? I don't remember this. How much trouble did I get in?
Oh, you didn't get in a lot of trouble. I got in more trouble than you did, but you were. I was kind of going. This is getting awesome. You don't know what you said, but you just kind of. I remember you saying this because he said something about Spud Winkle, and you go, "Well, Spud, he's a fat ass shitbird," and then it just.
Went downhill from there.
From there, I'm like going, this is going to be fucking awesome. I love this, man. The bird shut up.
S4.
Hey, I got to say,
S4 officer.
Yeah. What the audience to understand is it's all about morale and the intangibles of combat power. And there's in Disco, he reads a lot. We read a lot. There's a guy named Lord Moran who wrote a book called The Anatomy of Courage. It took place the trenches of World War I. And he said, and he's looking at, the courage, go over the freaking top over and over and trying to keep morale up, which is the true level of combat effectiveness. It's not counting tanks and shit like that. Otherwise, the Iraqis would have kicked our ass. It's culture. It's fucking all those intangibles. And so he talked about in there, he said, the person that was loved in the trenches was the person who did their job and had a positive complexion and outlook. And so I was so fortunate to go into 542 with Pisser and all the young guys like this, because we had guys like, Disco, you guys, the audience has picked up on the fact, Disco's just a character. And I don't give a shit how lousy crap was. You had these guys like Disco and Strut who always could put a positive spin on things, could smile and laugh no matter how shitty stuff got, whether we're in a mud-soaked trench in Korea or we're sweating our ass off in a fucking tent in Saudi Arabia. That's what makes the difference. And there's been great things written on this. It's the intangibles of combat power. It's morale. And I was so fortunate enough to go into a squadron, like Disco said, best fucking squadron. Strut and Disco built this thing, and I've been lucky enough. And to this day, for the audience to know, there's 15 of us still left on that 542 chat that we have, and we text each other every day. We've known each other 36 fucking years. Thank you, guys.
Greatest squadron ever, man.
Best group ever.
Well, one thing just to add to that, one of the great morale things we had, if you remember this when we were in Desert Storm, was we created the Deadbeat Club. And I still have that picture.
That's right.
That was in the tent that Strut and Turbo and Disco, I think you were in that tent, maybe Vapor. We were right next door. I slept next to next door. But we set up the Deadbeat Club, and we would periodically, before the war, they didn't have any booze in Saudi Arabia, but it may or may not have been the case that we would take the squadron vehicle and drive to Bahrain. And we did actually start off in Bahrain before we moved the squadron up to Saudi Arabia. And it may or may not have been the case that we would drive to Bahrain across the causeway, which did have booze, and we may or may not have filled up the squadron vehicle with booze after visiting with the nurses who were still in Bahrain, in the big city, and then come back to Saudi Arabia to stock our supply.
And we may or may not.
Well, and it may or may not have happened that every one of our relatives in the United States sent us booze and scope bottles with food coloring.
Food coloring.
And it may or may not have happened that we might have known the nurses.
Well, it may or may not have happened that we didn't drink really before when the war was getting ready to kick off. We probably didn't drink much at all, but after the war ended, we sure as hell did.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember we getting chewed out by Snatcher and Mongoose. It's like, where did you guys get all this stuff? I'm like, what stuff?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Well,
God, awesome.
We had a visitor from a fellow squadron who came to the Deadbeat Club after the war, and we had to drag him back. And unfortunately, we drug him on the tops of his boots and literally wore off. I don't know if you remember this. Wore off the tops of his boots down to the steel toes. So that was quite a problem the next day for him.
What
he did get home okay.
We got Hop Sing, we got Calvin Klein, we got the guys we grabbed in, because I remember some of their, like Hop Sing got kind of like shit canned by 311.
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
Great guy.
And we're like, hey, we want him. He's awesome. So we grabbed him. We grabbed Tom Klein. Cool guy. So anybody that was kind of a misfit that was a great dude, 542 was like, yep, bring him here. We want them. We want those guys. They're good guys. We want to kind of, enfold them in our culture here because we have such a good culture. We had a great culture. By the time our Westpac culture, with the exception of Spiko, with our Westpac culture.
He's not here to defend himself, by the way.
I know you're. That's what with the exception of my nail polish, you fucker pisser. Prick. With the Westpac culture was awesome. We get home and we take it to Saudi. We just had awesome. I mean, it was, to me, I tell people this all the time. I said, it was such a blessing to be surrounded by such great Americans, such great patriots, and such talented people.
Yeah, I'm picking up on a theme here.
It was awesome.
All right. Well, I really, really, really feel guilty and bad about breaking in here, folks, but this is where we're going to turn it off for this week because we've got another hour or so with these guys. Spiko's coming in to join us as well. First, I want to thank Sticks and Bago for helping out produce the show behind the scenes. Big help. It makes it easier for us to concentrate on the show. So thank you, gents, for that. Thank you to Badass for the pictures that we're using in this week's blog post for episode 170. So there I was.us/episode/170. And thank you also all the people who give money every week and every month to help make this show continue on. We're blessed to be able to do it, and we're grateful that you think our show offers some value. So what do you think, Fig? Next week?
Tune in next week. Because Spiko's going to join us. He's going to be an extra addition to the Young Guns. And, within minutes, Pisser jumps in his lap and gives him a wedgie. There's pictures of that. There's all these stories that involve Spiko from back during the war. And then there's
that picture made it into
magazine,
People magazine,
which he had a copy of.
Trying to give him a noogie or a wedgie.
He pulled it out and started showing the pictures, of all these. Yeah, so he had it all. And then there's a story about a Harrier that rolled into an F4. Let's just leave it at that. That's good.
Yeah.
And
whoops.
And then there's the great Rota fuel crisis, as it Rota Spain.
Right? They were trying to come back. Tankers start breaking. Guys don't have the gas. He's like making chicken scratch on his knee pad going, the numbers don't add up here. And Spiko was practically falling asleep anyway, with kudos to Woody, apparently.
Right.
I guess putting Woody in his cot out in the parking lot because he was snoring so damn loud was,
Yeah.
Still didn't do it for him. So all that stuff coming up next week. You couldn't script this stuff.
No, you really couldn't, and we couldn't stop him because we really needed to get all this out. And so you're going to enjoy it.
You will indeed. So, until next week, stay safe and check 6.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
What'd he say, Fig?
He said it's over.
We do the best work in town.
Yes, and it's guaranteed.
Certainly, we're colossal. We're stupendous. We're terrific. We're even superlative.